Samuel Doe history. Tragic death when karma revenge. Samuel Doe is the former president of Liberia. Samuel Doe is known for the president who killed by the rebel. The same as he killed his predecessor, the karma revenge. How he wieldly killed his predecessor and how and why Samuel Doe was humiliated, tortured before being assassinated. Listen his story till the end, you know more about him, his education, year life, military career, president's assassination, personal life. Don't forget to make a subscribe, like, share, and comment. His complete name was Samuel Canyon Doe, but he's popularly known as Samuel Doe. He was born on 6 May 1953 in Tuzo in Liberia, and he was assassinated on 9 September 1990. In Monrovia, he was a Liberian politician and a military officer who served as the 21st president of Liberia from 1980 till 1990. Year life. Samuel Doe was born in Tuzo, a small village in Grand Gede County in Zwedru in Liberia. His family belonged to the Kran people, an important minority in the indigenous group in this area. At the age of 16, Samuel Doe finished the elementary school and enrolled at the Baptist Junior High School in Zwedru. 2 years later, he enlisted in the army forces of Liberia, hoping thereby to obtain a scholarship to a high school in Kakata. Instead, he was assigned to military duties. Over 10 years, Samuel Doe was assigned to duties stations, including education at a military school and commanding garrisons and prisons in Monrovia. Samuel Doe finally completed the high school by correspondence on 11 October 17, 1979. Samuel Doe was promoted to a master sergeant, and he made an administrator to the 3rd Battalion in Monrovia, a position he occupied for 11 months. 1980, military coup and the new government. On 12 April 1980, while commanding a group of Kran soldiers, Master Sergeant Samuel Doe led a military coup by attacking the Liberian executive mansion and killed the president, William Tobert. His forces killed another 26 of Tobert's supporters in the fighting. 13 members of the cabinet of late President William Tobert were worked publicly executed 10 days later. Shortly after the coup, ministers of Tobert's government were worked publicly around in Monrovia in the nude, and they summarily executed by a firing squad on the beach. The convicted were denied by the right to a lawyer or any appeal. Hundreds of government workers fled the country, while many others were imprisoned. After the military coup, Sergeant Samuel Canyon Doe assumed the rank of general and established the People's Redemption Council (PRC), which composed of himself and other 14 low-ranking officers to rule the country. The early days of the regime were marked by the mass execution of members of Tobert's deposit government. President Samuel Doe ordered the release of about 50 leaders of the opposition Progressive People's Party (PPP), who had been jailed by the late President William Tobert during the rice riots on the previous month. Shortly after that, Samuel Doe ordered the arrest of 19 officials of the Tobert regime. Within days, 11 former members of Tobert's cabinet, including his brother Frank Tobert, were brought into trial to answer charge of high treason, rampant corruption, and gross violation of the human rights during the presidency of William Tobert. Samuel Doe suspended the constitution. He allowed these trials to be conducted by a commission appointed by the state new military leadership, with defendants being refused both legal representation and trial jury virtually ensuring their conviction. Samuel Doe abruptly ended 133 years of Americo-Liberian political domination. Some hailed the coup as the first time since Liberia's establishment as a country that it was governed by people of a native African descent instead of the Americo-Liberian elite. Other persons without Americo-Liberian heritage had held the vice presidency Henry to Wesley, as well as the ministerial and legislative position in the years prior. Many people welcomed Doe's takeover as a shift favoring the majority of the population that had largely been excluded from the government participation since the country's establishment. However, the new government, led by the leaders of the military coup and calling itself People's Redemption Council (PRC), lacked experience and was ill-prepared to rule. President Samuel Doe became the head of state and suspended the constitution, but he promised a return to a civilian rule by 1985. In the first alleged plot against his government, 9 military were arrested 2 months after the original 1980 coup were reportedly jailed for life. In June 1981, Doe's government denounced another alleged coup in which 13 members were executed behind closed doors. Months later, Thomas W. Sien, an outspoken critic of some of those policies, including the closure months before of the Libyan diplomatic mission and the forced reduction of staff from 15 to 16 at the Soviet embassy, was beaten and arrested on 12 August of that same year along with 4 other officers. They were promised defense attorney, but no one was given in the 3 days they were executed, which caused panic among the citizens of Monrovia, Liberia's capital. Some facts of the 1980 coup are still closed. By report of an unknown soldier, it was reported that an unknown soldier was one of the white mercenaries who would have staged the 1980 military takeover. According to an autobiography of Tobat's wife, Victoria, the former first lady of Liberia witnessed a masked man with a white hand stabbing her late husband. Samuel Doe presidency. During his rule, Samuel Doe portrayed himself as an unrated leader whose actions were intended to bring relief to many. Samuel Doe styled himself Dr. Doe, starting in 1982 after making a state visit to Cham-do-hwan in South Korea, and he was awarded an honorary doctorate from the University of Seoul, South Korea's capital. After 7 years of calling himself a doctor, Samuel Doe announced in 1989 that he had completed a bachelor's degree from the University of Liberia. Samuel Doe openly supported the United States of America during the Cold War. The United States valued Liberia as an important ally during the Cold War, as it helped to contain the spread of Soviet influence in Africa. New Constitution and 1985 election. A draft constitution providing for a multi-party republic was issued in 1983 and was approved by the referendum in 1984. In October 1985, Samuel Doe was elected as Liberian president, and he sworn as Liberian president on January 6, 1986. Increased repression. General Thomas Kionpa, who had been a leader of the 1980 coup, along with Samuel Doe, attempted to seize power on 12 November 1987. The attempt failed after fighting in Monrovia, in which Kionpa was killed. President Samuel Doe announced in a radio and the television broadcast that anyone found on the street after 6 p.m. would be considered as a robber and executed immediately. Doe's government became even more repressive after the attempted coup, shutting down newspapers and banning political activities. The government's mistreatment of certain ethnic groups, particularly the Gyo, Dan, and the Mano in the north. Kionpa was in an ethnic of Gyo, resulted in division and violence among indigenous population who until then had coexisted peacefully. Civil War. Charles Taylor, a former ally of Doe, crossed into Liberia from Ivory Coast on 24 December 1989 to wage a guerrilla war against Samuel Doe. Charles Taylor had broken out of jail in the United States where he was awaiting extradition to Liberia on charge of embezzlement. The conflict quickly flared into full-fledged civil war. By June 1990, most of Liberia was controlled by the rebel faction. Monrovian Massacre. Approximately 600 civilians were killed at the church in the Cinco section in Monrovia on 29 July 1990. The massacre was carried out by approximately 30 government soldiers loyal to Samuel Doe. The perpetrators were of those Kwan tribe, while of the most of the victims were the Gio and the Mono tribes, which were in support of rebel. Capture of Samuel Doe. President Samuel Doe was captured in Monrovia on 9 September 1990 by Prince Johnson, leader of the Independent National Patriotic Front of Liberia, ENPFL, a breakaway faction of Charles Taylor's National Patriotic Front of Liberia, NPFL. General Quaino had invited President Samuel Doe to the ECOMOG headquarters for a meeting. Quaino assured President Samuel Doe of his safety from the rebel. On the morning of 9 September 1990, President Samuel Doe arrived precarious during an ongoing change in a guard duty from the well-armed and better-equipped Nigerian team of peacekeepers to the weaker Gambian contingent. The Nigerian team had just withdrawn from the scene when Doe's convoy, lightly armed personnel arrived. President Samuel Doe was escorted to General Quaino's office, where he was formally welcomed while most of his team of aid and the guards waited outside. Prince Johnson rebels surprised everyone by suddenly arriving at the scene uninvited and heavily armed, overwhelming and disarming all of Samuel Doe's team while encountering no resistance. They then started shooting Doe's escorters individually and later in group. Upon hearing the gunshots outside, President Samuel Doe expressed concern to General Quaino, who assured him everything was fine. General Quaino later excused himself to check on what was happening outside, and he was followed by his aide Captain Coker of the Gambia contingent. Both men took cover upon assessing the situation. Johnson's men moved indoors, finished off the Samuel Doe's remaining soldiers, shot him in the leg, and took him captive. Torture and the murder of Samuel Doe. After being captured by President Johnson rebel, President Samuel Doe was taken to Johnson's military base to prove that he was not protected by the black magic. Prince Johnson ordered Doe's ears to be cut in his presence. Chocolates were pressed around Doe's leg, and something strange was tied around the glands, as can be seen in the recording. At the end of the recording, Samuel Doe was forced to get up. Some of his fingers and toes were amputated, and there were attempts to mutilate in his middle finger. After 12 hours of torture in Johnson's head, President Samuel Doe was murdered. His corpse had its head shaved and was exhibited naked in the street of Monrovia with cigarette burns. Doe's body was later exhumed and reburied. The spectacle of his torture was videotaped and seen of new reports around the country. The video shows Johnson sipping a beer as Doe Doe's ears is cut off. Samuel Doe's personal life. Samuel Doe's wife is Nancy Doe. They have 3 children: Samuel Canyon Doe Jr., Vannie Ezekiel Farah Doe, Sylvia Yetta Doe Ado. Samuel Doe was a Baptist. At one time, he was a member of the First Baptist Church in the town of Gwedru in Grand Gede County. He changed his church membership to the Providence Baptist Church of Monrovia on December 1st, 1985. President Samuel Doe was a football fan, and the Liberia National Stadium was named Samuel Doe Stadium after his death. Samuel Doe was assassinated brutally. Then he assassinated his predecessor, William Tobert Jr. The karma revenged him. What reason you read in the Samuel Doe's history? Tell us in the comment. Make a subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you for listening, guys. God bless you.